At last, as the first lark rose towards the light that was still far up in the sky, Silver, his pale fur sodden and dark with dew, came limping back to where Hazel was encouraging Bluebell and Pipkin. "You can pluck up your spirits, Bluebell," he said. "I think we're close to the iron road." "I wouldn't care about my spirits," said Bluebell, "if my legs weren't so tired. Slugs are lucky not to have legs. I think I'll be a slug." "Well, I'm a hedgehog," said Hazel, "so you better get on." "You're not," replied Bluebell. "You don't have enough fleas. Now, slugs don't have fleas either. How comforting to be a slug among the dandelions so snug." "And then feel the blackbird's sudden tug," said Hazel. "All right, Silver, we're coming. But where is the iron road?" "Holly said it was a steep, overgrown bank. I don't see anything like that." "No, that's way up by Ephrafa. Down here, it runs in a sort of comb of its own. Can't you smell it?" Hazel sniffed. In the cool damp, he picked up at once the unnatural smells of metal, coal smoke, and oil. They went forward, and in a very short time found themselves looking down from among the bushes and undergrowth on the edge of the railway cutting. All was quiet, but as they paused at the top of the bank, a tussling pack of 6 or 7 sparrows flew down to the line and began to pick around between the wooden ties. Somehow the sight was reassuring. "Are we to cross it, Hazelrod?" asked Blackberry. "Yes," said Hazel, "at once. Let's put it between us and Ephrafa, and then we'll feed." They went rather hesitantly down into the cutting, half expecting the fiery, thundering angel of Frith to appear out of the twilight. But the silence remained unbroken. Soon they were all feeding in the meadow beyond, too tired to pay attention to concealment or to anything but the ease of resting their legs and nibbling the grass. And from high above the larch trees, Kihar sailed down among them. He alighted and folded his long, pale gray wings. "Mr. Hazel, what you do? You no stay here." "They're tired out, Kihar. They've got to have a rest." "It's not to rest here. It's rabbits come." "Yes, but not just yet. We can—" "Ja, it's coming for find you. It's close." "Oh, curse these confounded patrols," cried Hazel. "Come on, all of you. Get down the field into that woods. Yes, you too, Speedwell, unless you want to have your ears chewed off in Ephrafa. Come on, move." They tottered over the pasture to the woodland beyond and lay completely exhausted on flat bare ground under fir trees. Hazel and Fiver consulted Kihar again. "It's no good expecting them to go any further, Kihar," said Hazel. "They've been going all night, you know. We'll have to sleep here today. Did you actually see the patrol?" Ja, come all along by Udderside Iron Road. Just in time you go." "Well, then you saved us. But look, Kihar, could you go and see where they are now? If they're not gone, I'm going to tell our group to go to sleep. Not that they need me to tell them that. Just look at them." Kihar returned with the news that the Ephrafa patrol had turned back without crossing the iron road, and then he offered to keep watch himself until the evening, and Hazel, greatly relieved, at once told the rabbits to sleep. 1 or 2 had already fallen asleep, lying on their sides on the open ground. Hazel wondered whether he ought to wake them up and tell them to get under thicker cover, but as he was thinking about it, he himself fell asleep. And the day came on hot and still, and among the trees the wood pigeons called drowsily, and from time to time a late cuckoo stammered. In the fields nothing moved, except the constantly swishing tails of the cows gathered flank to flank in the shade. Chapter 33. The Great River. When Hazel woke, he startled at once, for the air around him was full of the sharp cries of some creature hunting. He looked quickly around, but could see no signs of alarm. It was now evening, and several of the rabbits were already awake and feeding at the edge of the woods. He realized that the cries, urgent and startling though they were too small and shrill for any kind of allele. They came from above his head. A bat flittered through the trees and out again without touching a twig, and it was followed by another. Hazel could now sense that there were many bats all about, taking flies and moths on the wing, and uttering their minute cries as they flew. A human ear would hardly have heard them, but to the rabbits the air was full of their calls. Outside the woods the field was still bright with evening sunshine, but among the firs the light was dusky, and here the bats were coming and going thickly. Mixed with the resinous scent of the fir trees, there came another smell, strong and fragrant, yet sharp, the perfume of flowers, but of some kind unknown to Hazel. He followed the smell to its source at the edge of the woods. It came from several thick patches of soapwort growing along the edge of the pasture. Some of the plants were not yet in bloom. Their buds, curled in pink pointed spirals, held in the pale green calices, but most were already star-flowering and giving off their strong scent. And the bats were hunting among the flies and moths, attracted by the scent of the soapwort. Hazel passed Raka and began to feed in the field. He was disturbed to find that his hind leg was troubling him. He had thought it was healed, but the forced journey over the downs had evidently proved too much for the muscle torn by the shotgun pellets. He wondered whether it was far to the river of which Kihar had spoken. If it was, he was in for trouble. "Hazelraw," said Pipkin, coming up among the soapwort, "are you all right? Your leg looks strange. You're dragging it." No, it's all right," said Hazel. "Look, LaRue, where's Kihar? I need to talk to him." "Well, he's flown out to see if there's a patrol anywhere near, Hazelraw. Bigwig woke some time ago, and he and Silver asked Kihar to go. They didn't want to disturb you." Hazel felt irritated. It would have been better to be told at once which way to go, rather than have to wait while Kihar searched for patrols. They were going to cross a river, and as far as he was concerned, they could not do this too soon. Fretting, he waited for Kihar. Soon he had become as tense and as nervous as he had ever been in his life. He was beginning to believe that, after all, he might have been rash. It was clear that Holly had not underrated their danger near Ephrathah. He had little doubt that Bigwig, by a sheer chance, had led a fox onto a wide patrol, which had been following their trail. And then in the evening, again by luck and with the help of Kihar, they had evidently just missed another at the crossing of the Iron Road. Perhaps Silver's fear was well-founded, and a patrol had already spotted and reported them without their knowing. Had General Woundwort got some sort of Kihar of his own? Perhaps a bat was at this moment talking to him. How was one to foresee and guard against everything? The grass now seemed sour. The sunshine felt chilly, and Hazel sat hunched under the fir trees, worrying dismally. He felt less annoyed now with Bigwig. He could understand his feelings. Waiting was bad. He fidgeted for some sort of action, just as he had decided to wait no longer, but to collect everyone and go immediately. Kihar came flying down from the direction of the cutting. He flapped clumsily among the firs, which silenced the bats. "Mr. Hazel, is no rabbits. I think maybe they no like go far across Iron Road." "Good. Is it far to the river, Kihar?" "Na, it's close. In woods." "Splendid. We can find the crossing in daylight?" "Yeah. I show you bridge." The rabbits had gone only a short distance through the woods when they sensed that they were already near the river. The ground became soft and damp. They could smell sedges and water. Suddenly, the harsh, vibrating cry of a moorhen echoed through the trees, followed by a flapping of wings and a watery scuttering. The rustling of the leaves seemed also to echo, as though reflected distantly from hard ground. A little further on, they could distinctly hear the water itself, the low, continuous pouring of a shallow falls. A human being, hearing from a distance the noise of a crowd, can form an idea of its size. The sound of the river told the rabbits that it must be bigger than anything they had known before. Wide, smooth, and swift. Pausing among the comfrey and the ground elders, they stared at each other, seeking reassurance. Then they began to lollop hesitantly forward into more open ground. There was still no river to be seen, but in front they could perceive a flicker and dance of mirrored light in the air. And soon afterwards, Hazel, limping ahead with Fiver near him, found himself on a narrow green path that divided wilderness from the riverbank. The path was almost as smooth as a lawn and clear of all bushes and weeds, for it was kept cut short for the fishermen. And along its further side the riparian plants grew thickly, so that it was separated from the river by a kind of hedge of purple loosestrife, great willow herbs, fleabane, figwort, and hemp, and here and there some already in bloom. 2 or 3 more of the rabbits emerged from the woods, and peering through the clumps of plants, they could catch glimpses of the smooth, glittering river, evidently much wider and much swifter than the Enborn. Although there was no enemy or other danger to be perceived, they felt the apprehension and doubt of those who have come unawares of some awe-inspiring place where they themselves are paltry fellows of no account. We know that he felt these things, and so have many travelers in foreign parts who did not know what he was going to find. There is nothing that cuts you down to size like coming to some strange and marvelous place where no one even stops to notice that you stare about you. And the rabbits were uneasy and confused. They crouched on the grass, sniffing the water smells in the cooling sunset air, and moved closer together, each hoping not to see in the others the nervousness he felt in himself. As Pipkin reached the path, a great shimmering dragonfly, 4 inches long, all emerald green and sable black, appeared at his shoulder, hovered, droning and motionless, and was gone like lightning into the sedges. Pipkin leapt back in alarm. As he did so, there came the shrill, vibrant cry, and he caught sight between the plants of a brilliant azure bird flashing past over the open water. A few moments later, there came from close behind the hedges the sound of a fairly heavy splash, but what creature might have made it, there was no telling. Looking round for Hazel, Pipkin caught sight of Kihar, a little way off, standing in a patch of shallow water. He was stabbing and snapping at something in the mud, and after a few moments pulled out a 6-inch leech and swallowed it whole. Beyond him, some distance down the path, Hazel was combing the goosegrass from his coat, and evidently listening to Fiver as they sat together under a rhododendron. Pipkin ran along the bank to join them. "There's nothing wrong with the place," Fiver was saying. "There's no more danger here than anywhere else. Kihar's going to show us where to get across, isn't he? The thing is to do it and get on with it before it gets dark." "Well, they'll never stop here," replied Hazel. "We can't stay and wait for Bigwig in a place like this. It's unnatural for rabbits." "Yes, we can. Calm down. They'll get used to it quicker than you think, I tell you. It's better than 1 or 2 other places we've waited in. Not all strange things are bad. Would you like me to take them over? Just say it's because of your leg." "Fine," said Hazel. "LaRue, can you gather everyone here?" And when Pipkin had left, he said, "I feel troubled, Fiver. I'm asking so much of them, and there are so many risks in this plan." "Well, they're a better lot than you give them credit for," replied Fiver. "If you were to—" Kihar called across, startling a wren from the bushes. "Mr. Hazel, what for you wait?" "To know where to go," answered Fiver. "Bridge near. You go on. You see." And where they were, the undergrowth stood close to the green path, but beyond, downstream, as they all intuitively felt, it gave way to open parkland. And out into this they went, with Hazel following Fiver.